going on? People are starting to jump on. Oh. Brian, what's up? McKenna, there he is.
What's up, dude?
What's up, dude? I can currently see your chest.
All right, we're moving this shit. I brought in my tripod just so it's easier, so I don't have to hold in my hand.
Dude, the head, very clean.
Of course. Cool. That works.
Yeah, we're good.
Good enough. Cool.
What's going on?
So what's up, man? Huh?
I said, what's going on?
Dude, just jamming. Getting rifles and pistols out. Yeah.
It's Alpha Day, isn't it?
Sunday.
Oh, that's this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we'll do a quick intro. For you guys who are coming over from Meridian's page to mine, what's going on? I'm Joe. I'm one of a dueling pair of personalities here at Bruiser Industries. My compatriot in arms is currently at TTPOA. I'm the soft side. He's the SWAT side. And then today we have Paul from Meridian Defense with us. If you guys aren't following Meridian and you're from my page, you're fucking wrong. So, Paul, do you want to give your little elevator speech?
Yeah, man. I'm Paul McKenna with Meridian Defense, project manager. Been here for 4 years now, and it's been a wild ride, man. So it's good.
So Paul and I met. I like hard use shit, and I like stuff that's overbuilt. And so when my background in AKs came from teaching people overseas to shoot them, and the ones we had came out of wooden boxes and were covered in cosmoline. And so when I got back and people were like, "Hey, modern AKs are a thing," I was like, "I want to try one." And so did my research. You know, the normal names came up, but Meridian had a gun called the Little Dirty that caught my eye. And so I went on said website, went purchase, and started my waiting period. I had questions like any anxious customer, and Big, Bold, and Beautiful right here was who started answering my questions, and we became friends. So that's essentially the story.
That's how it started, yeah. No, man, so the company started tail end in 2013 by two individuals, Anthony Aria and Justin Weisblatt. Justin had been in machining, the whole CNC side of the house, so, owned a machine shop, right? Master machinist. Anthony, on the other hand, hot rod builder, stuff like that, bikes, right? Anything and everything. Dabbled in AKs back in the day, They came together. They started doing OEM stuff for starter-based platforms. So a lot of AR-15 stuff back when, that was a real huge thing. Obviously everybody remembers 2013 timeframe. I mean, anybody and everybody made stuff. Gas blocks, lowers, uppers. So they were an OEM for OEMs. And they were doing that for a while, and then it basically turned into, it's like, hey, market's just saturated. What can we do? And Tony was like, dude, I love AKs. We got AKs. We can start building AKs. See what happens. I throw shit on the wall and see if it sticks. And kind of the whole mantra around here for models, is like, if we would want something and it's not out there, like, we would want to buy something and we can't get it, we're going to build it. And that's kind of how we base it around, Obviously it's got to work, but it's like, it has to meet those requirements, And that's kind of how everything started. So
explain your guys' model lines, because you guys have three distinct. I mean, you guys have more, but with the Alpha being added, but like.
Right. So like we had our base rifles were just classic AKMs, 16-inch, 760 by 39 guns. Anybody and everybody and their mom, has one. And then from there, it kind of grew into, we started doing some a mixture of classic and modern. So that's kind of how we started out with like the Pestilent, where we did the Apocalypse series. So we wanted to do kind of like people say it's a theme gun, right, or series, which it is, but it isn't. we took, MD63 Romanian parts kits, hand select kits, and a lot of them have, trench art, they're battlefield pickup guns, from the get-go. The greatest thing is modern front end. So, I mean, that one right here. So, base AKM, complete modern front end. So our fully machined gas block, right, our barrels, so it's a suppressor-ready platform. You throw a can on it, it'll run. It's not going to be overgassed, Rack-grade AKs are overgassed. And there's a reason for that, so they run, plain and simple. So we kind of took the best of both worlds and kind of mended that. And then obviously, we had a little dirty from the bulk. So those were based off of Sharps Brothers MB47 milled receivers. They start their life out as a solid chunk of billet. They're machined down to about like 2.5 pounds, I believe. And then we put some work into those and we build those up. There you go. Into what we wanted was, we love our stamp guns, plain and simple. Milled guns hit a little different as far as aesthetically, how they feel. They're going to be a little bit heavier. They can feel a little bit smoother, and that's just based off of carriers, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Milled carriers for stamp carriers, how you tune your fire control groups, all that stuff. And we tried to pick the best components that we had. We do our own barrels, gas blocks, all that stuff. We're doing just about everything we can to that to try to get it as close to 100% American made as possible. And obviously for the longest time, we weren't able to get bolts and carriers that were quality that were U.S. made. So we were getting NOS, Bulgarian, Type 3 milled carriers and bolts and using those. And it actually started out, we were using Russian components, and then it's like those just, we couldn't get any more. And then Bulgarian stuff started rolling in, but yeah, man, so we started doing that. Your Little Dirty and the bulk started out as, we wanted a suppressor-ready platform from the get-go. We wanted to be able to throw a can on it, because most AKs in general, you can't just throw a can on and run it like that, plain and simple. You're going to have dwell times are all, weird. You're going to have too much gas, you're going to start beating the shit out of your rear block for most stamp guns.
I heard they also have a lot of problems with the threads not being concentric, and so the can can have baffle strikes.
100%, yeah. And that's the other thing, half 28 thread pitches versus 14x1. Most AK manufacturers that are doing any suppressor ready stuff, those are the 2 thread pitches you're going to run into. You're not finding 5/8x24 stuff, just because of barrel thickness, outside diameters and stuff like that. So everything's going to be half 28 or 14x1 based off of what muzzle device or flash shot you're running. But all these barrels that we run, that we make, are turned on center. They're concentric. We use an alignment rod. And at the end of the day, if someone does have an issue, if they have an issue with any of our stuff, we take care of it.
Yeah.
So as it should be. So, but yeah, man, we started out. As far as when we did this, AAC had their SDN6 762s. Those were the hot cans on the block. So we were running Battle Comp BC51s with SDN6s, and they suppressed beautifully. Like, it was stupid how good they were. And then Dead Air came onto the scene, and then we started seeing more Dead Air cans and then silencer code cans and stuff like that. And now it's all over the place. Now you're seeing, you started out with basically just tuning the gas system, massaging it, getting it to where it's running reliably with and without a can. And then you got guys that are throwing on adjustable gas pistons now, and there's all kinds of crazy shit that's happening in the industry. So
I was just reading the comments. So yeah, somebody asked, what piston systems are you using? You guys are running KNS, right?
Yeah. So you have your stand pistons and KNSs.
They can put a KNS in. I don't know what is standard. So you guys don't put them in standard. It's an add-on in the drop down.
Correct. Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize for KNSs in general, what I would ask a customer is like, hey, are you going to run your gun suppressed most of the time? And if you are, I'd recommend the KNS. And that ability to it's not that you're going to gain that much ability with the can off of it with the can-S, but your ability to adjust your gas setting based off specific loads, that's the big thing. So
yeah, yeah, cool. And then you guys are, so with the like you said, the Russian stuff's going away. Have you seen the Bulgarian and some of the other parts kits getting harder to find? I know AKs. So basically, so from what I saw, I figured out modern AKs were becoming a thing, and then the ammo shortage happened, and then all of a sudden AKs were the thing because they were the last ammo to get hit with the shortages because people were like 5.56 was gone, 9mm was gone, but 7.62 by 39 and 5.45 were still sitting on the shelf for a long time.
Yeah.
And AKs all of a sudden were just like the thing people were buying because you couldn't get anything else.
Yeah. So as far as the ammo and all that stuff, you know, we weren't really too. I mean, obviously, we're always concerned when any administration starts, you know, really screwing us when it comes to ammo and hitting nations that produce that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of manufacturers out there that aren't based out of Russia. You know, whether that's Ukraine, Poland, you know, Romania, Czech Republic. There's so many other places that ammo is being manufactured.
These
so
companies are,
you know, who knows what the real cause of delays in ammo is? Is it all the what's it called, transportation ships off the coast of California, Long Beach, and on the East Coast trying to get in? You know, that kind of stuff. We bought in the neighborhood of, I want to say 100 or 220 or 230,000 rounds. And what we did is we sent out an email to all of our previous customers when the panic was happening, and we sold that just above our cost. Not because we had to, you know, sell ammo, but because we wanted to make sure that those that bought our products actually had something to shoot. Yeah. And so we did that, and it's like ammo prices started to settle, and then you just start seeing this weird, you know, it's like this. You know, before working here, I used to manage a gun shop for like 3 years, and so I saw that retail side of it, and so I understand how all that works. You know, you're going to get ammo coming in, it's going to go out. I saw it. I used to be the president of a local gun club. We have like right around 1,500 members, and getting ammo just for like shotgun shooting and stuff like that. You know, you would think that would be easy. It's not. It's just ammo in general, you know. But 7.60 by 39 and 5.45 tend to be the easiest to find. When people say that they can't find it, I'll literally go and find them a link, send them it. It's like, here, I found it, you know. You got to look hard at me, and you'll find a deal. I mean, you shouldn't be paying $600 for 1,000 rounds of 7.62, you know, let alone 5.45. But right now, I guarantee you I could find you 1,000 rounds of either caliber, you know, right around $400, maybe even less. Fairly simple. So
well, I know 9mm back down to around 300, 330, 340, depending on where you look. 5.56 NATO is coming back down to about 400 to 500, depending where you look. It's I was talking about the Russian ammo ban. People were freaking the fuck out, and I said, dude, that doesn't matter. Companies overseas aren't stupid. So if you can't get ammo with Russian stamps on it from Russia, that ammo is going to then cross borders and then get repackaged in other factories and come through from other countries that we're not banning.
Yeah. Let's just hopefully the packagers get paid. That's a War Dog little joke. But yeah.
Says, where do you find ammo? I'll tell you right now, you guys, if you're not on Ammo Seek or some of these other ones, that's a really easy place to look. But I'm sure Paul probably has some other.
Dude, off the top of my head, like what I've bought personally, SG Ammo, Ammo Supply Warehouse, I'm trying to think, Aim Surplus, heck, K-Bar was selling ammo, you know? And, I mean, dude, do a Google search. I mean, it's out there, man, you know? And usually when I buy ammo, I'm not just buying 1,000 rounds. I just got to take into consideration. I know that it's hard sometimes, you know, to bite the bullet and spend $600 or $800 on some ammo. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's depending on how much you're shooting, how much you're training with, you know, you just got to figure that out.
The thing that I think people want to buy well, I'm only going to shoot a little bit. I'm only going to shoot a little bit. I'm only going to shoot a little bit. And they're pissed they don't have any. It's like, well, dude, save up for a couple months and just buy 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 rounds. Now, if you shoot a little, then it'll last you a long time. If you shoot a lot, you're going to use it. Like I try to, I don't make an order less than 2,000 rounds typically of any caliber. Like, because, you know, for me, when I'm shooting 9mm or 5.56 or whatever, if I do have a good training day, that's 400 or 500 rounds. And so it's like, you know, why am I buying 400 or 500 rounds? Like for what, one day on a weekend? And I think as ammo has got really scarce, you know, my training days became very, very, very focused on what I was trying to get out of them. And so I could, you know, really lessen the amount of ammo I needed to accomplish my goals. But as it starts to open back up again, then so does my goals and what I want to work on. I'm just watching some of these comments. SG has been good. Put your email on all the newsletters.
Okay. Cool.
If you're
I'll let the guys know. Marco,
so let's get back. You guys are, let's talk about what you guys have coming out. So, dude, the new alphas, you guys are releasing 3 of them.
Correct. Yeah. So 5.56, 5.45, and 7.62. This is 5.56. So they're real, you know, it's not a joke. I've had some people like, oh, you've been telling us for 2 years that you're coming out with shit. It's not going to happen. I'm like, okay, well, it's happening. I like no bullshit. Our customer service guys have probably gotten like 4,000, 5,000 emails just in the last 36 hours alone. Just trying, like, hey, how do I buy this thing? I want to buy 5 of them. I want to pre-order. It's a limited run. We're not going to say the amount, you know, just, I don't want to piss a bunch of people off. But it's going to be a first come, first serve kind of deal. And we've always done this on model releases, on model drops. And we sent out a letter to all of our previous customers, you know, and then we let everybody else know. And that's what's happening. So it's cool because, you know, 5.56 is, you know, obviously cylinder-based platforms, you know, it's supreme, you know, for a caliber. For AKs, it was kind of, it was thrown to the wayside. A lot of people didn't want to run it. They were like, it was a bastard, you know. You can't get it to run right, all this other stuff. You started doing, you know, magwell conversions to take AR-15 mags. I had one of those. You know, we did it here. You know, we took a Sega 5.56 and put a AR-15 magwell adapter just to do it. It was cool, but it was like, no, it should, you know, an AK's got to take AK mags.
What mags are you guys recommending?
So right now, these are going to ship with puff mags. So these are Russian metal lock and lug magazines. So we're not going to ship it just with 1. We're going to ship it with 5. So each of these things, you're going to get a basic load with this. So you won't have to worry about mags. But you can find these stateside. There's a few places that are selling them. I'm not going to name names yet because I don't want a bunch of people to go out and buy 1,000 mags and there's nothing there. But also, you're going to be able to run Bulgarian Circle 10s. So like the waffle powder mags. K-Bar's got a shit ton of those. I don't know what the costs are. They're probably going to be somewhere around $50. You know, maybe, you know, between 45 and 60 usually is the going rate. And then we do have WBP Polish magazines that do work. So these are obviously less expensive than the Circle 10s and the Puff Mags. Puff Mags aren't that expensive though. I mean, I think retail on those are like anywhere between $25 and $33. So
somebody just asked, "Where's your cigar, Paul?"
I'm still at work. This is my lunch break.
Somebody just asked, "Is this going to be a one and done run, like 10 of each caliber, and that's it, or is the Alpha going to become a normal production model like the Volk?"
So right now it's not a one and doneer. We've always done a pre-release, right, before we start doing pre-orders on models. This was kind of to gauge popularity on certain things and to see if we could, you know, sell these. And I'm pretty sure we're going to sell, you know, they're going to sell pretty quick. But right now, yeah, we're going to have a limited release of those, and then we will be releasing these down the road. So we plan on, I mean, these will be produced. Same thing with 545 and 760. So this isn't the last time you're seeing these.
Are you guys? So you guys are going to update your website to have like the pest, the not pestilence, the apocalypse series, the the machine receivers, and then like the alpha build is going to be like another.
So if you go on the website right now, there's a section where it says AK platforms, models, AK platforms. On the right-hand side, there's the special projects division tab. Click that, and it will show all 3 models with all their descriptions and specifications. And those are on there, and that's where those are going to stay. So what we'll probably do is, right now, we'll keep doing limited runs of these.
Well, I mean, you guys do that with all your guns, really. I mean, if you guys want the Apocalypse series, whatever, you have to wait for it to come out with another run,
sure,
right?
Yeah, no, especially the pestilence. Pestilence, we set it up as limited based off the fact that we secured a certain number of kits for. It's like, hey, those are for the pestilence. We know these are going to sell. People are going to want these. We're going to have this number of kits, and when those are out, those are done for the time being, unless we start doing some limited, runs. And what we're trying to do is the Apocalypse series is basically gets set to the side. It goes away. It's closed out, and then we're going to be releasing all of our 7 Sin series. So we have multiple new models that are going to be coming out, especially next year. We got a whole bunch of new parts. It's going to be crazy. Like we got a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, Steve Taylor. So from what Paul said earlier, I'll answer that, but Paul can correct me. He's asking if there's going to be some $500 deposit or something. I think they're just listing them on the site on Sunday. What time?
I believe that's 12 Pacific Standard Time.
So at 12, they're gonna post, and then Paul said they're going to be first come, first serve. Yeah.
So we have a limited amount. They're built out, so they'll be ready to ship. They'll be able to go on the website. If you're one of the lucky ones that is able to purchase one of these things, right? We get your funds. We make contact with Director Bell. We get that going, and we're going to be able to ship out. So there's not going to be an extended lead time. We're talking about we're going to be able to ship this thing out within a week. So
he said he owns 4 Apocalypse rifles and he loves them.
Stephen Taylor. Cool. Right on. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
So cool. Good shit, man. So are you seeing Zenitco seems to be the new hotness, right? Like everybody and their mother. I mean, fuck, Garand Thumb up in Washington. He has 3 of them. What's his face? The previous owner of Rifle Dynamics. What's his name?
Yeah, Jim Fuller.
Jim's doing a lot of alpha type builds. I mean, Rifle Dynamics is doing a lot of alpha type builds.
Yeah.
Are you finding that those parts are readily available, or when you guys order them, they're like, or how hard is it to import those?
They can be available, and then they can't be. It's one of those things. It goes up and down. Normally you have your sources, but normally we can get them. We haven't had an issue. And so what we always do is when we do a limited run, I'm always securing those things. But I mean, Zenitco B33 top covers, they're rock solid. They're they're the best Picatinny top cover on the market. They're the B30 lower handguards, the B30Us. On the 5.56 and 5.45 guns, we have the B30Us. On the 7.62 guns, we did them true to spec and did like B33s with the standard Picatinny. But these B30Us are the slimline version. How these differ from the sport that you see a lot of guys running is it's not a 3-piece design. And when I say 3-piece, basically you have a standard lower handguard piece right here. You have the front section, and where this Picatinny slot would be is basically there's like a bridging bar that would hold that together. And then obviously we've done alphas in the past with 7.62, 5.5. And so normally you would see the B31Ss and the B30s. So, but yeah, man, you can get them. People can get them. It's not an issue. I will say this: a lot of people don't realize that they're not plug and play for the most part. You got to do a little fine
to install on your own gun, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're going to have to do fine tuning to make sure that the lower handguards actually meet up. They fit inside the receiver and where the trunnion is. We get a lot of people asking, "Hey, can I get my bolt or a little dirty with Texas or with a B-33 top cover?" Right? And the reason why we don't offer that as a normal option is because we got to take that receiver and you actually have to machine off the ears at the front of the receiver to allow these bars to clear.
Oh, I see.
So, and then on top of that, you have to run a Zenitco lower handguard to allow that to lock in. So, because it locks in to the back, basically.
Well, I mean, dude, these SLR handguards are solid.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and that's why we run them. I'll be honest. Any of the components that we run on any of our models, we wouldn't run them if they don't work.
Yeah.
So that's just plain and simple. We've shit canned a lot of stuff over the years. That doesn't work. We're not doing that. So.
That's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys expanding your line, and I know a little more than some on what you guys are coming. So I'm excited to see next year. Are you guys going to be at SHOT Show? We
are. Yeah. And that was the funny thing is the guys in the shop. I think we booked our hotels like last week or something like that. So we're getting that going. I don't know what we're going to have out at SHOT Show. We're figuring that out right now. And but normally we have rifles and pistols in people's booths. We've had them in SLRs. We've had them in CNC triggers booth. A whole bunch of other places.
You guys go and kind of float then. You guys don't actually.
Yeah, we don't have a booth. No. We normally roll into Vegas and we do like a 2-day thing. Meet and greets. We have meetings. Hang around, then we get back to the shop. It's all business. Because the deal. The whole industry shuts down that week. Like, you can't get anything done. Whether you're trying to or not, you can't get anything. And so for us, we try, 2 days is a lot for us to leave the shop, but it's not going to be everybody. But yeah, we'll be there, so, I'll let you know. And normally we have some fun with everybody. You'll see, patches. We'll have our guys, slapping Meridian patches on the back of your guys' Velcro, on your backpacks and stuff like that. So, that's the game we play when it comes to.
I should be there this year, so you and I will have to travel around being big, bald, and beautiful.
Do it.
So, what are you guys? What is on the horizon that you guys, other than this, that you can talk about on this, or is it nothing?
How can I put that? There's a lot of stuff that's coming out in the near future that I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but it's coming very soon. And we're talking about, products, muzzle devices, all kinds of stuff that you probably be like, holy shit, I didn't expect them to do that. Different models, just platforms in general. We got a whole bunch of stuff. So pretty soon, people will start seeing that.
I'm excited. We actually, so how's your what's it called? The gun you had at the class?
The PSL.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good, man. What people don't realize is we built a PSL, but we started out as, I didn't want a normal PSL, and I didn't have the flow for an SVD. Plain and simple. I don't have 12 grand to drop on that. I'd rather spend that money on something else. But I was able to secure some really hard to get SVD handguards and some components, and we used a custom set of handguard adapters, and we did an SVD, front handguard on the PSL, 20-inch barrel, chopped it, threaded it. I attempted to use a Gore-Tex Gen 2, one of the 3 to 18 by 50s on it with a side mount, and that thing is a tank. It weighs a little bit too much for a side mount. We figured that out. But the thing, I'll tell you this, the thing runs great suppressed. It runs beautifully. It's stupid. So I was able to secure a Comblock style optic that has it's a, what is it? I think it's a 4 to 10 by 42 illuminated, and it works. And some of the guys and I took it up to the range, and we were just using some crappy 760 by 39 or 760 by 54, and at 100 yards, it was grouping really well. So I got 2 boxes full of Hornady 174 grain match that we're going to put it to the test. So I'll save some for when we're around. So when you come down again.
Let's see. It says 12,000 for a SVD is insane, especially when the SV98 is supposed to be a better Russian sniper. Of course, 12K is Barrett M107 land.
Yeah, I mean, for 12 grand, I can put a Hemi in my 69 Roadrunner. So, priority.
Who is running your camera?
That's no one's running my camera. So it's in a tripod.
Somebody asked.
Yeah, no, so basically, hey, tripod with a hog saddle. It works.
So what happened was, JR and I ran a class down in Santa Barbara, and I knew Paul and the boys were down there, and so we did a LPVO and precision rifle class down there. I invited Paul to come out. Hadn't met him in person. Came out. We had a great 4 days. He brought that SVD. He was having issues with the Vortex being too heavy, and so he ended up running my guns for 2 days, and or 4 days, and we had a great time. So I've seen the gun, and I'm anxious to see you guys figure out a way to offer a long range AK.
We have one, and it's being Cerakoted right now. I can say that.
There we go.
How about that?
So yeah, perfect. Now people go, okay, now I'm going to ask the hard questions now. Why AKs? And so I will say, for my purpose for an AK, and they go, well, why an AK over an AR? It's like, well, in the US, ARs are a great platform. They're modular. We have all the parts. We have all the ammo. And an AK is in respect to an AR, an archaic platform. What I'll say is that it's for reliability wise and for what you can get out of an AK, I'm happy to see people like you guys and Zenitco modernizing it. And I think, an AKM with iron sights and a wood handguard has its place for those who are nostalgic. I think it does leave a lot to be desired with modern access to night vision and lasers and suppressors and modularity. There's a lot to be desired, but I think companies like Zenitco and you guys and I think are bringing a lot to the table to bring that platform into a more modern era.
Sure, 100%. I mean, and that's not that, we build AKs, but that doesn't mean we don't like other platforms. We started out manufacturing AR-15s and AR-10s and stuff like that. We all have them. I mean, plain and simple. So
somebody asked, what products do you use for beard maintenance?
It's 100% Russian Cosmoline.
I think cigars are meant to be inhaled, not blown through.
Yeah. No, but it's true. It's like, everybody has a soft spot for a traditional classic AK, an AKM or an AK-47, a true mill gun. And I think that everybody should have a basic AK, and they're safe. And you should understand how it works, because outside of the AK and a stoner-based platform and maybe, a FAL and some G3s, those are what you're going to find out in the real world, so plain and simple. And it's one of those things, we'll go to ranges, we'll go to shoots and stuff like that, and people expect, they'll expect me to bring out some Gucci'd out AK that we've built, and I'll bring a basic AKM, because you can do the same stuff with it, and I don't have, we don't have to shoot with a red dot or, LPPO or something like that to prove its point. And what's great is, like, on our Volk, I mean, we've had guys that were like, AK suck, they're inaccurate. Okay, cool. So we sent that out to a buddy of ours, and with as good an ammo you can buy, I think at the time it was like Corbon DPX, and like Winchester was actually making good ammo. It was brass case stuff. I mean, it had a CMC trigger in it at the time. I believe it. I mean, 5-shot group, and it was, I think 0.93 MOA, at 100, and they were hitting steel at 7. That's it's a 14.5-inch barrel. Nothing special. It had a 2 MOA red dot on it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, AKs work, plain and simple. They work. They can be just as accurate as other platforms. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, which we can talk about on another day. But it's like, dude, I mean, we can make them work, and they work, you know.
So what's the difference? What makes a imported AK better than an American AK classically? I know there's, you know, obviously guys like you guys and Rifle Dynamics and Krebs and stuff do a lot to make a nice AK, but you know, people who are making AKs in the US versus the imported ones, there's obviously or historically a difference in quality. And what makes
I don't think it's I don't think it's quality per se. I think what a lot of it came down to is there's a lot of American manufacturers over the years that didn't understand, you know, they were used to building other platforms, and that's all they've ever known. You know, they've never owned an AK in their life, right? They don't understand how the metallurgy, you know, heat treating and all that stuff go into it. And they thought that, hey, I'm gonna get these parts cast or forged or this or that, and not understanding there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. There's a lot of time and effort. You know, not to mention, like, if we were getting Russian AKM kits, you know, I think a lot of that's just nostalgia for some people, because you can put together a nice AK kit with, you know, the WBP kits. You know, we've built guns off of those in the past and stuff like that, the commercial Polish kits. But everything that we build our rifles off of, like the Pestilence series, they're actual Romanian military MD63s, you know, and that's how they start their life out. So they've been spec'd out. They're good to go for a specific comm block, you know, military. You know, they're not a commercial grade firearm, and that's where we build all the parts from. And so I think that's what it comes down to. I think a lot of it's heat treat, to be honest, man, because I've seen trunnions that were way too hard. You know, heat treat was crazy, brittle. You know, you start to see cracking, and you see other stuff that's way too soft, and it just mushrooms.
Somebody asked, with the alphas being tuned for suppression, are they coming standard with the KNS?
They're not. No. We found a long time ago, especially 5.45 guns, 5.56 guns. You don't need the KNS on there. We've, especially how we do it. You know, we're the ones that are drilling gas ports. So gas port sizes, we're massaging all that stuff. So you're not going to have any issues with that. You should be able to take a dead air Wolverine, install it, and it'll be good to go.
Somebody asked, in your experience, how common is it for the muzzle threads to not be concentric to bore on AKs?
The majority of standard, you know, standard AK barrels, that, you know, if we're talking imported models, almost every one of them. Now, the thing is, though, like if you want to run a can on, you know, a rifle that's direct thread, that's 14x1, right? That's what dead air and the Wolverine, that's what they designed those things for. So it's designed for a rack grade AK. You install that, you know, what I always recommend someone do is go out and buy one of the alignment rods. You can get them anywhere. Brownells, Midway, you know, I think Surefire makes them, you know, and just make sure, you know, throw your can on, throw the alignment rod down there, and you're good to go. You shouldn't have any issues at that point. But we've seen issues with muzzle devices, right? Not the internal threads and all that stuff of being out of concentricity, but we've actually seen the locking points where the can goes on be out of spec, and then that throws some stuff off, or even parts of cans, right? And it's like we're as the manufacturer of the firearm, we're trying to help the customer out and contact the manufacturer of cans or the muzzle device and say, hey, something's going on here. You gotta look into this stuff and try to fix it. And we've seen that. So, but if you want to suppress your AK and you got a standard AKM, right, or something that is direct thread 14x1 that's got a detent on the front sight tower, dead air, Wolverines, fantastic. I would stay away from shimming on a muzzle device, right, or using a crush washer, and then just to utilize a specific muzzle device to throw your can on.
Okay, so stay away from like the thread adapters and stuff?
I would, yeah. A direct thread AK wasn't designed for that, you know? I mean, there's going to be too much wiggle, and that's in the threads and everything else. I mean, there's too much variance in that. If you want something designed to run as, you know, suppressed, a lot of guys are taking their rifles and they're having new barrels installed, you know, or they're having barrels chopped, right, and threaded. And so that's service. There's a lot of places that offer those services. Just make sure that they have a good track record of providing concentric work.
Somebody asked, "What's your guys' lead time on?" I mean, I guess that's a very generic question, but what's your guys' lead time?
Well, 52 weeks. If we have a pre-order going on, so like pestilences, Volks, Little Dirt. So we just reopened the orders for Volks and Little Dirties recently, but it's 52 weeks. It's a year. It's been a year for a little while, but these models, the alphas, we've been working on these things. We were going to release these things spring of last year, but then COVID hit, and it screwed up everything. So it's one of those deals. And then with these, how we built these things is weekends, off time, so we don't mess up our current production of other people's orders, because that would just be a dick move on our part. And then we got those done, and then we waited for them to get Cerakote, and they came back, and we did final assembly, and they're good to go. But yeah, lead times are going to be 52 weeks. Now, does that mean someone that placed their order 6 months ago, are they now 52 weeks? Well, we're going to do a blanket statement of 52 weeks, and more than likely, we're going to be able to get their order to them sooner. And I'll be honest, we're shipping hundreds of rifles a month, whether that's going out to processing and coming back, or doing final assembly and shipping out to the customer. But we got hundreds of rifles going out. And in many cases, we're, hundreds of rifles each week going out to processor, whether that's Cerakote or other finishes, So we're in this constant cycle of getting stuff out to processors and getting them back and doing the final assembly.
I know if you guys follow the Meridian page, they do a really good job of on their story. If you flip through their stories, or if you watch the page, there's constantly pictures of carts and carts of guns, like pestilence builds or Little Dirties or Volks, or like a row of 100+ guns. And so it's easy to see that they're getting guns out. Somebody asked, Alpha 5.56 guns, 1/2x28 or 14x1?
Well, all of these models are true to spec, so they're 24 millimeter, 24 by 1.5 right hand, because of our 24 millimeter combo blocks. These things. So at the end of the day, we may or may not have something around down the road that's direct thread, but if it's going to be 5.56 or 5.45, right? It's going to be 1/2-28. We're not going to do it 14x1, just because. There's no point in doing that. 7.62 by 39. We've over the years, we've done a few special runs of 7.62 alphas, and we've done them true to form with 24 millimeters, and then we've done some 1/2-28, like direct thread stuff, with our standard gas blocks. So people can run different cans in the Wolverine. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot of stuff coming out next year, and people are gonna be surprised. And so don't be surprised if you start seeing stuff that you guys are talking about in the comments right now. So just to throw that out there.
Are Meridian rifles built off a parts kit or all new parts? What country of origin?
It depends on the models. So Pestilence, Romanian MD63 models, right? Our war models, which was the Yugo RPKs, those were Yugo-based kits, M72s. And then 5.45, 5.56, 7.62. I don't want to say it's a hodgepodge, but obviously we're using Zenitco parts, so you got Russian parts, you got Bulgarian parts for the 74s, and for 7.60 by 39, for 5.56 and 7.62, you got Russian, Polish, U.S. made parts. There are stamped receivers, our barrels, our gas blocks, that kind of deal. There are side folding buffer tubes, so these pistols are 4.5 millimeter rear blocks. So they are side folders. Okay? So they're going to arrive with SBA 3 braces. For the people that want to SBR them, it'll be very simple for them, right? And right off the get-go, they can take this off and they can throw something else on them, and they'll be good to go. And that's how standard alphas. You're not going to see triangles and stuff like that. for the most part. And the reason for that is you lose a lot of, there's not much weight in the back end on a triangle, so it's going to be extremely front heavy. So I'd recommend using more of a modern setup stock when you do SBR. But thankfully right now we don't have to, right? So pistol works. And the greatest thing about a pistol is I don't have to get Uncle Sugar's permission to cross state lines like you do with an SBR.
Yeah, that's always the problem, right? Like, do you SBR something or do you not? As of right now, I think pistols end up being the better option for just about everything.
100%.
As frustrating and stupid and as much as I disagree, and that's a whole different hour-long discussion on how these rules are stupid. Even I have buddies who are with the ATF. I have a buddy with ATF, and he's on one of their task forces, and I guess it was on their docket to get rid of the SBRs because they kind of realized how stupid it was. And then the ATF did a study on how much money they make off of tax stamps and how much it would affect their ability to operate. And literally the ATF stopped doing it because they couldn't function off of the lack of funding.
Which is amazing because so every tax stamp, is $200, from an individual perspective, right? You think of how many SBRs, SBSs, AOWs, hands, and that goes to the NFA branch. Now, the sad part about that is I guarantee you their general fund ain't very big because, they were having a hard time getting enough people over there or putting them in place because they said they didn't have the budget for that kind of stuff. Well, they're making quite a bit of money off this crap, so they should be able to make it work.
It's crazy that we leave rules in place for the sustainment of a governmental agency, and not because the rule is important, just to keep people's jobs.
Yeah, no, and it's complete BS. So at the end of the day, my take on it. I'm the same way with you. All that stuff, the NFA shouldn't exist, plain and simple. So.
I don't know. This appeal to liberty guy, I'm pretty sure works for you, or is good buddies with the shop, because his questions are amazing.
What's he saying now?
He said, does anybody in the shop like anime?
Yeah, we got 2 guys that like anime.
And then he said they should tax stamp magazines. You should get dick stamped just for that comment.
Yeah, 100%.
Machine guns out of vending machines. That's a whole different discussion in and of itself. I full auto. I carried a belt fed for a long time. I understand the use of full auto. I have zero interest in having anything full auto. None. I absolutely believe you should have the opportunity if you want it. I just don't. I think it's a waste of ammo, and it's a really easy way to turn money into empty casings.
Do I believe that you should be able to own it? Absolutely. Do I want to waste the money? It all depends on how good of a time I want to have.
you got a lot of employees here.
I can hear guys in the other room just laughing.
It says Mac can't see us.
No, I can hear you though.
So cool, man. Well, so how did you get started in AKs, and how did you end up at Meridian personally?
So I've been in AKs for 17 years. My godfather's a Vietnam vet, right? My old man and him and my mom would take me up to the range all the time as a kid, right? And he, of course, him being a Vietnam vet, he had a Colt SP1, my parents had the same deal. AKs were just cool. It was just one of those things where you had to have, an M16 retro gun, and you had to have the weapon of the enemy kind of deal. And so that's how it got started. And then, I had an AK as early as I can remember, basically being around. And it was just one of those things where it's cool, it's awesome. So I get to train on this, and it's different because the deal. Stoner-based platforms, they're cool. Absolutely. You can do a bunch of cool shit with them. But after you've put together 10 of those things, it's Legos for adults. It gets bored. So, and you have that whole blacksmith mentality when you build AKs, We're dealing with 1940s and 1950 technology, still, but we're bringing in, the 21st century into this and making it happen.
I watched a video once about how the home-built AK versus a machine-built AK or a shop-built AK, and how, I think the crazy thing is how people can build AKs and hold them together with screws and bolts and they still fucking work. And I think that's both a blessing and a curse of the platform. Sure. Because you have a lot of guys who just think that, like, guys like you guys are, why the hell is a little dirty, whatever it is, $2,700 or
yeah. Well, it's because they don't take into consideration that, there's about $2,000 in parts alone, before we start talking about the refinishing, single color, camo, any additions, and then labor. So we've prorated the labor costs on those for like the past 4 years, one of those deals. I mean, the labor cost wasn't nearly what it should have been, and we did that on purpose because we kind of felt that for the longest time, our models, that's how we get the point across for people to look at our parts, our components that we make, Mm-hmm. And going back to like garage built stuff, there's nothing wrong with garage built stuff as long as they build it right. And there's plenty of guys out there that I know personally that, we've built stuff out of our garages that are fine, it's not an issue. You just got to do it right. You just can't be half-assed about it. But on the other hand, it's crazy because you look at some of the arms bazaars in Pakistan, Khyber Pass stuff. Like, if you've ever watched videos of that stuff, you're like, holy smokes. They're building that stuff out of that. And then when they're done and, they go up to the roof and they clack off 30 rounds. They're like, hey, it didn't blow up. So I can't talk shit about it, So one of those deals. We don't shit on any other manufacturer's product, individual home builders, because we have to start somewhere, And there's been plenty of cases where our guys have taken calls and talked to people where they can't afford one of our rifles, which we understand. Some of them can get pricey. But at the end of the day, we'll try to help them. We'll give them a list of stuff that I think that they could rely on, if they're utilizing it, whether they just want to go up and shoot it, and have fun, or they want something for self-defense or whatever, they just want an AK. We'll give them a list of stuff that we think that, it'll fit their needs, it'll work just fine for them. And that's what we should be doing, as a community, because there's too much infight, there's too much drama, there's BS going on, dude, screw all that. We're about making badass shit and having fun and making sure people know, hey, you can call us up, we'll help you out as much as we can, even if you're not running our product. And that's what we've done since the get-go.
So instead of shitting on stuff, let's talk about budget level guns that are imported that you guys think are worth a shit, are like Zastava or some of these other. What companies do you know that think that puts out a pretty decent gun that somebody can go and buy that is going to serve them well?
So I haven't looked at most of the current imported stuff because for years Wassers, like Century Arms is the largest importer of firearms in the U.S. A lot of people don't know that. They don't, they manufacture their own stuff, but they're the largest importer, plain and simple. We have our import license, but we do it for parts kits and stuff like that. It serves us. But yeah, Zastava has always been, Yugo-based AKs in general are like tanks. As long as, they were riveted correctly, right, and headspace is solid, you're good to go. You shouldn't have an issue. The Wassers that were being imported from Century Arms, for the most part, those were solid, you're always going to have issues with canted components and stuff like that. Yeah, it's the nature of the beast, And then obviously, for the longest time, all the Russian guns, all the Saigas, all the Vepers, those were solid. You buy a Saiga or a Veper, if it hasn't been messed with, by somebody, you're not going to have an issue. And that's kind of how we started as far as, we're doing small kit builds, but we did a lot of Saiga and Veper conversions for people over the years when we were doing that. So those are solid guns. So they can get pricey now. I see them going for like over $1,000, in some cases, just a normal Saiga 760 by 39. But those are Russian AKs,
Well, what's funny is I look back like growing up, and it's funny as you get older. It's like growing up, it doesn't seem like that long ago, and then you think about it, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Fuck, I'm old." And I look back at like Big Five, growing up, and it's like I used to walk into Big Five when I graduated high school and stuff, and it's like they used to have like Enfields on the rack, and they were like
Yeah.
$96. They had you could get an AK for like $170. Like it was just like
I think I bought a Mosin for like $69, $59 at that time. I bought a K98,
SKS.
So,
And what's funny is you look now, go try to find a real SKS and see what you're going to pay. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, dude, you guys are paying way too much for some rifles that probably shouldn't even be used. I'm seeing some real horrible shit out there. But at the end of the day, you got to do your due diligence. You can't just be like, oh my God, I need this. I'm going to go out there and buy that just because this person has it, right? So, have a list, write down the top manufacturers in the game, right? Email some questions. And more than likely, you're going to get the answers that you want. And whether you're buying from them or not, at least you can take that education that you got and put that towards something else that's on the market. And no.
What I think is funny is guys, in this land of social media, I think guys are looking for cred and stuff, and they want to add to their arsenal, and they want it now. Like they want instant gratification. I want it now. And so I have whatever, $400, $1,000, $1,200, whatever your budget is, and they go, I want it now. And sometimes there's that point, right? Like there's a point at which you don't really want to buy X product under this dollar amount. And you really, the minimum to buy a quality whatever is probably around this dollar amount. And it's not that those guys can't afford it; they're just not willing to wait. And and that's what I think gets me is like, no, does everybody need a little dirty? Does everybody need take your pick. Do you need to go buy a precision rifle that's $5,000 to get a quality precision rifle? Fuck no. But there is.
But do you want one?
There's a minimum that you should be looking within your requirements to get what you want. And I think people have a really hard time making that determination for themselves, and they use other people to make that determination for them. And so you either have somebody who's unwilling to buy a quality gun, and they could, because they're saving up for something that's so far outside of what they actually probably really need, or they buy something really quickly that's way less than they probably should have bought, and they should have waited a little longer. But the gap between those two can be ebbs and flows and changes between individual need. And so, does somebody want a crank? Well, you can buy a $400, $600 crank, you can buy a $1,000 crank, or you can buy a $3,000 crank. So,
and that's the thing. I mean, I'm going to date myself. I remember buying parts kit, like original barrel parts kits for $69 and $79. Okay? Where just 2 years ago, those things were selling for like $600 to $800. Right? I think 2008 to 2009, crank parts kits were $250, $300 from places like K-Bar. And nobody wanted those things. You couldn't give those things away. And then they turned into like this miraculously, $2,500 parts kit overnight. From that point forward, like it's one of those deals, And there was one point where it was a seller's market because nothing was coming in, right? And parts kit prices are always going to go up, especially for comm block stuff, because those countries aren't making those anymore. Those countries are now not comm block countries, right? You have a lot of countries that are, a part of the EU or part of NATO and stuff like that, right? And they brought in the fold, and they've gone away from 760 by 39 or 545 or whatever. They're shooting 556, and 760 NATO versus 760 by 39. And so whatever stockpiles of rifles, they were either trying to sell those to other nations that would purchase them, or they would just make parts kits, right? Well, those parts kits, they get bought up and they get sold, and they get built into rifles, and it's just one of those deals. And for us, we became an importer just so we didn't have to, we could jump through the hurdles of doing that stuff, without having to deal with anybody else. So we could keep getting what we needed, until we're able to produce our own, our own
Well, I
parts
think
kits.
somebody said, old Steve Taylor here said, more money doesn't mean better gun. Don't buy the cheapest thing, but don't overpay just because. Can't agree more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's companies out there, especially in the Armalite realm of AR-15s and AR-10s, but there's a minimum, like AR-15s, right? We'll just use that example because it's something I know well. So
Yeah.
there is, Palmetto or some of these like $500 ARs. Will they run? Yeah, kind of sure. But you might not have a properly staked gas key. You might not have a minimum standard of a checked bolt and carrier. You might have the forgings might not be great, the barrel might suck, whatever. But if you're going to have a hard run at a class gun, a Colt 6920, some of these baseline guns that are non-free float, and then you get up into like Daniel Defense, BCM, LMT, like mid-level guns. Now, is stuff like a Radian or a Knight's Armament or whatever, what is the return on investment for that name or the options you get? Does that make it necessarily better than a BCM or Daniel Defense? So that it does it mean more Instagram cred? What's it worth to you? Especially on the AR-10 market, I see this a lot, which is like people go SR-25s because the military uses them. That doesn't mean a fucking thing. And so with AKs, I assume it's pretty similar, which is,
It's 100%. Yeah.
You go,
it's hard to throw out a dollar amount, right? To base what's quality based off this price, right? And because with price changes all the time, you're getting guys like, for us, we're not in a rush to the bottom. How would I put it that way? When it comes to our products, right? You have so many manufacturers that like, okay, we need to drive down the cost of this. We need to do this to meet this price mark. Well, we don't have 150 employees, right? We got less than 20 employees here. Okay, we're a small company. Look at us as we're building hot rods when it comes to AKs, because that's really what we do. We're just able to do it, as far as the volume, we're able to push these things out, right? Like they should be, but without messing with any of the quality that you would find in some of the smaller or the very cheaply priced models on the market, right? That you find out there.
I'll say this, especially scale too. Like I watched, everybody knows Geisley. Geisley for a long time I would have pushed everybody and their mother to Geisley. And I think Bill's a great person. I've known Bill for a long time. As they scaled up and they got bigger, companies like Daniel Defense went through this, the market skyrockets and the demand skyrockets and people reach to meet demand. And there is a point where you can ramp up production too fast where your quality suffers. And we saw this in, Geisley came out, started having a lot of issues with their Mark 6 rail and their rails not holding zero for lasers and stuff. Whereas I never would have thought that would happen with a Geisley product. And so companies like you guys, like that are, in high demand, you have a year backlog. Like, do you double your number of employees? Do you order more kits? But then how do you maintain the quality that you're known for? Because once your quality starts slipping and those issues get out there, it's really hard to recover from that.
Yeah, 100%. So I will say this, we're probably in our part of the industry, right? For like AKs in general. I think we're, if not the only company, but one of the few that have actually turned off models, not because we couldn't sell them, but because we were focusing on our backlog. And so we shut off all the bulks, the little dirties, that's the mill platforms, our side folding models, right? And a couple other models, just to focus on backlog stuff. And we've kind of got to the point where we have a lot of these models, that, we still have customers waiting, obviously, but they're in different stages of the build process, and a lot of those are going out to processing, or they're in the final stages of their build, and they're getting paint or whatever, right? And then we've got to the point where we're able to turn back on the little dirties and bulks, just like a couple of days ago. We turned them back on, But you couldn't buy them for, I think it was, what was it, 8 months?
Yeah, right about 8 months.
Right about 8 months. You couldn't buy them. It's not that we couldn't sell them, because I could have pre-sold a metric shit ton of those things. So and that's how we are able to focus on what we have going on around here, right? And we don't add a bunch of employees because we don't need, right now, to be honest, with our current crew, there's always room to grow, but you have to grow in the right ways, you know? So with COVID, there was companies that, you know, they're like, man, they're firing people. But we didn't see that, you know? We grew. We damn near doubled in size from where we were. But we had that much work, you know, and it's not getting any slower. So
look at Galil Ace. Slate off 40% of their workforce last year. Was it last year or year before? You know, that's one of those things, right? You grow so much, and then all of a sudden you're too big, and all of a sudden you have to, you know. But
how big of the market with stoner-based platforms or ARs, right, is saturated? Yeah. I mean, you probably got 10,000 companies that you have never, I mean, three of those you've never heard of, right? And they're making stuff and selling to people. Our segment of that community, you know, or the industry, right, is a lot smaller. So, because you either have legitimate builders, right, or you have gunsmiths or guys that basically, hey, I'll do some work on the side, or it's just garage builders. And there's nothing wrong with garage builders. I'm just saying that, but, you know, they don't have FFLs, and they're not selling their guns for profit, you know, or trying to make a living off this stuff. So that's really it. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of people in this industry, and if they have, and there's been companies that have tried this, they just couldn't get it, you know. And like you said, once you have a shitty product, or people start hearing that your product's shitty, it just goes downhill, you know.
Well, that's what turned me on to you guys, and why, you know, you and I became friends, and why I've become a Meridian, a preacher of the Meridian gospel.
Right.
I like companies that, one, overbuild their shit, and two, that support their product after the purchase. And I think a lot of companies get to the point where, I'll say it, LaRue is one of these companies that almost gets to the point where it's like, you're welcome for the ability to buy my shit. Like, right. You know, like, you should feel blessed that you even got one of my guns. And I think what happens is when you start having issues and you're of that mindset, then you start to disenfranchise your user base. And you see companies like LaRue that's literally almost become completely irrelevant in the industry, when they were like the gun to have, you know, no more than a few years ago.
100%. Yeah. Them and their mounts. No, I mean, and it's good that you touched on that, because, I mean, we have a sign at the end of our manufacturing hallway that says the customer is your boss. Remember that. And it's true, because at the end of the day, you only get one chance. And that's why I tell our guys, we have one opportunity to deliver something that the customer is going to like. Because first impressions are everything. Plain and simple. I don't give a shit if, like, something small is wrong with it, right? They're always going to remember that. 100%. And so if you're able to, you know, in general, but, you know, for the most part, like when I've seen this, like, customers is, when we send them a rifle, right, or a pistol, and we know that we go through everything, right? We nitpick it, and we're way too anal when it comes to AKs. When it comes to certain things, we have to actually step back and we're like, we got to remember that we're building AKs here, you know. We have to tell that to ourselves, but it's true, because I see in other industries, first impressions are everything, right? Because we know it's going to work. It's just we need to make sure that, you know, we set the right tone. And usually what happens is that's a good basis for running everything else off of, you know, for gauging a customer, you know, when they get their order. Because if it's exactly what they wanted, what they spec'd out, you know, then we just go from there.
I think you set the tone when somebody saves up and they wait and they get their gun. If there is an issue, you have one chance to save that customer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what happens is somebody's super excited, they get their gun, and X isn't right. X doesn't run, or they have that 1 in a million gas block that wasn't treated right, or, I mean, take your pick, whatever. And
Yeah.
what happens is companies want to go, well, have you checked this? Well, there's a difference between the companies that endure when they go, here's your overnight label, send it back to me. It'll be on my bench tomorrow. And then
Right.
you send it back. I think 99% of people are going to be like, fuck yes. Even if they had an issue, are still going to be happy with the response they got if they had it. Whereas there's a lot of companies who go like, well, you know, it's probably you. And sometimes, guess what? It might be customer, ammo, hand loads, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I tell people is this: in this modern platform, you can, for 1,000, or let's say this, for 10 happy customers, it's immeasurable, the word of mouth and the good faith, because you can't measure the additional sales after a happy customer. But
Sure.
that one customer who, and you're not going to make everybody happy. And for that customer that you go, yes, you're a dipshit, you didn't do this right, or you put a twice loaded round, or you didn't look, it's hand loads, it don't work. If you don't go the extra mile, a properly motivated person, given the platforms that we do, social media, Facebook, can cause losses of sales far exceeding you having to pay $60 for an overnight label and 2 hours of one of your gunsmith's time just to look it over and sanity check something.
Yeah. And we've seen that. I mean, I don't know how many, because when we were very small, just 3 people in the company, I don't know how many times I've taken phone calls on a Sunday afternoon or evening, walking people through stuff. But that's just what we do. I mean, I'll be honest. If you have questions or there's an issue or something like that, you're getting my personal cell phone number. That's the deal, and that's what I send out in emails. So, I mean, you're going to get in contact with someone, if there's an issue or if you just have questions, or if it's one of those things where like, man, here, you need to talk to me now. And that's how we've always done it. I mean, for the longest time, one of the owners, the main phone number, one of the owners, it was his cell phone number, and he was like, man, now it's like, I'm getting hundreds of phone calls now, and that was early on, it's like, probably shouldn't have done that, because now it's like, that's the business line. That's the business line. I can't shut this thing off now. So, but that's how we've always run things, it's a really personal thing. And I mean, we're still a small shop. So I feel that that's what we need to do,
Well, you don't realize how much power. I don't think people realize. Well, the properly motivated people do. If I went on to, if I was pissed and this gun, I just wanted to take a vendetta against you guys for this. And I went, this gun, has a scratch right here in my finish, and that's fucking bullshit. And I go on, 6 forums, 6 Facebook groups, posted to Instagram, posted to a bunch of other people's Instagrams. All of a sudden, what they can create is an imaginary issue with Meridian, with whatever, with SLR, and then all of a sudden people are like, well, I'm seeing this everywhere. Well, it's like nobody's piecing together. That's one person with one gun, because they've seen it in multiple sources. They think it's like this, it's all over the place. Well, it's like, no, that's one fucking person.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, that's an issue with X product. No, it's not. And so, but you guys you can hedge that, or you can at least get ahead of that by just going that little bit of extra mile. And you go, well, that's a lot of customers. We have a lot of customers. Well, yeah, but that one person you piss off can cause a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, like you said, at the end of the day, I mean, we just have to do our best to try to, you try to please everybody. You're not always going to.
No.
It is what it is. Sometimes it's just like, okay, you go down that road and, that's how it is. But thankfully, we haven't really had to deal with that. And I've had plenty of cases where, rifle gets damaged in transport. We had, we respray it, I've had other stuff happen. We've, had rifles lost by UPS or FedEx or something like that. And I'm dealing with that, to make sure that we find that thing and get it to, to where it was supposed to go. So, at the end of the day, if you guys are sending emails, if, it's not Marco that's answering them, more likely I'm going to be answering. So it's like a 50-50 thing. And we answer hundreds a day, 100 emails a day, we try to get to phone calls, but at the end of the day, it's a manufacturing facility, so there's machines going on, Bridgeports, horizontal lays, mills, all that stuff. So sometimes we can't get to the phone. Leave a message, send us an email, support@mdcmfg.com, and we'll get back to you. We always do. And so at the end of the day, we're here to make badass shit, and we want to get into people's hands. So it's like with these alphas. I know there's going to be some people that are going to get pissed. They're like, hey, you're prioritizing this over my order, right? No, we built these in, on the weekends, on Sundays when no one's supposed to be here and there's nobody working, that kind of deal, And that's what we've always done. We used to put in long hours. I mean, hell, most of the time we get here before the sun's up and we leave well after the sun's gone down. Because that's what you have to do. You got to grind. You got to make it work. Otherwise, it's not going to, So that's just where we're at. And I know, you're going to be getting into the night vision game here soon, and we need to be able to build some cool shit that we can utilize modern stuff on, and that doesn't happen with just basic rack grade AKMs. So we're always going to be pushing the envelope. We're always going to be dropping new shit, so everybody can utilize the components that they want, that they want and need to utilize. So
that's why you and I are touching tips to do some
right.
fancy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're still at work, and it is now 6:15. So if you guys we got about, I don't know, 20 or 30 people on here. If you guys have any questions,
I'm fine with sticking around. I don't care.
Oh, so. Then, dude, I'm on my front porch. The sun's going down. My dog's irritated at me, and so I'm happy to sit here. I know sometimes when you're at work, you're like, I just want to go home, and this bearded fuck keeps talking.
Yeah. At the end of the day, dude, we're like a huge family. We talk shit to each other constantly, like it should be. It's a team environment, and we talk shit to each other. But this is just a big family, dude. We basically live here. At the end of the day, that's how it works.
Does Meridian think they would ever do anything with the Galil Ace?
We might, if all things go according to how we're trying to schedule everything and get all of our orders out, we could start opening up some gunsmithing stuff, maybe some gunsmithing projects, and actually do some of that stuff. But right now, I'm going to say no. But that's, you never know. Hell, I want one of those 545 Galil Aces. I talked to you about that. I want one. One of the guys here is just good buddies with one of the major guys over there at IWI, and whoever's importing them. I was like, man, I'd love one of those things. So
I will say I'll say that about the Galil Ace is the one thing I've been pushing people to those for is because they're coming pretty ready to fucking roll. They're coming with a good rail, and that's M-Block compatible. The Gen 2s, I think, are significantly better than the Gen 1s. They got rid of a lot of the plastic and stuff. If you want a front sight post for whatever fucking reason, the Gen 1's kind of your way to go. But those Gen 2s look like slick fucking guns. They're coming with side folders. They're coming with braces. I don't know how much you'd really have to do to them.
Yeah, I don't know. If it's a rifle, maybe people are talking about cutting down barrels and doing some weird shit like that. For over the last 6 or 7 years, there's been companies that have come out with more modern platforms than 760 by 39. I'm sorry, 760 by 39 in a basic AR platform just doesn't work. You got a real funky mag, mag geometry, all that stuff just doesn't work. But then you started seeing those platforms like SIG came out with the 550 series when they had their 550 series. I think they had the 553 or the 553P. It was basically a 550 and 760 by 39. One of the owners had one of those pistols back, a while ago. Those things ran great. CZ Bren, I think there was a 760 by 39 Bren at one point. I don't know if it ever got here, but there's a lot of cool, innovative models that are coming out, right? And they're utilizing 760 by 39. One, because it works. Two, it's relatively inexpensive compared to other calibers. And it's a 30 caliber projectile. There's reasons why you still have Alpha Group units, overseas, in Russia and stuff like that. Most of everybody's running 5.45, but you still see that one guy running 7.62. Barrier penetration.
Well, I tell people, I mean, that's a whole different discussion, which is caliber selection and getting a gun for your purpose, and so you kind of gave a nice segue into asking a gun to do what it's not designed to do, which is I compare 7.62 by 39 very much to probably the precursor to 300 black, which is you're not going to build an 18.5-inch 300 black and put a sniper scope on it because it's a 30 cal projectile, but that's called 308 or any other gun because you need enough powder behind it to push that projectile to do what you're asking it to do. And so I understand they have SVDs and all these other things, but like you're trying to ask something to do something it's not designed to do. And you look at, well, they have sniper variants. They had them in Russia. Well, it's like, yeah, because they didn't have the modern capabilities we do with modern projectiles and bullets and caliber selection. And so for me, 7.62 by 39, I really think the 12.5-inch is kind of like the alpha builds are kind of like the perfect length.
I do too. Yeah.
I think that's kind of your do-it-all 7.62 by 39 gun. And I hate that term, do-it-all. But as far as like getting as much out of 7.62 by 39 as you're really going to get, whereas I talk about being it's gain over it's a gain over loss kind of equation, right? And so any caliber, as you get down the barrel length, you get to where you reach full burn. And if you reach full burn, any gain of an inch or 2 inches or 3 inches or 4 inches past that, the return on investment for how much longer you make your gun is so fucking small. Whereas if you start cutting it down from 12 inches, that you gain a little bit more, mobility or shortness in length, but you're losing a lot of muzzle velocity because you're still in that pressure spike of the powder burning. That's why you have these like 8-inch AKs that are fucking fire breathers. And so ARs are very much the same thing. And so, but an AR, that length at which you get full burn is significantly longer than you do on an AK. And so, I think, and it's kind of like when people go, well, why don't you build an AR in 7.62 by 39? It's like, well, because you have to use these funky mags that aren't designed for the platform.
And you have 300 black.
Yeah, I have 2 of them. I would never in a million years build a 300 black AK or I wouldn't personally buy a 7.62 by 39 AR.
I've seen both. They both, I mean, at least the 300 blackout AK conversion, it worked just fine, but there was no point to it,
But 300 black's expensive as shit.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I think that's why for me, and you and I have had this conversation, for me, my AKs, I stick to Russian because if I'm going to run 5.56, like I've got 12 ARs in the safe that I can go run 5.56. They're designed to run it. It's what they're based around. And I don't have to get funky mags or anything weird. And it's like AKs, like when you start building your safe, you start to go, oh, fuck, I've got, 14 guns in 12 different calibers. It's like, that's 12 different fucking mags you have to buy. And especially with the AK, like I have, I went and bought these Circle 10 AK mags because I was told these are kind of the gold standard of hard use AK mags. Dude, they're $60 a piece.
I know they are. Well, I told you when you were buying those things, I was like, you're gonna have that one guy that's going to say, just don't be such a whore. Dude, they've been $50 to $60 for like the last 4 years. It's crazy. I think retail originally on them was like $45, and they just gone up from there. That's where they're at. I mean, I have magazines now that 74 mags that are like over $120 a piece. I was like, what? It's a mag, and that's why, at the end of the day, like we try like all the bulks and little dirties, and most of our painted platforms, we send it with a Gen 3 PMAG, because Dwayne and those guys over there know what the hell that they're doing. They've gone through government trials with these things, I don't know how many millions of round cycles these things have gone through. And that was like that wasn't even the metal locking ones. I know a lot of people talk shit about like the non-metal locking. We don't use those. We're gonna send it with the metal locking one. It worked great. 545 max. We're gonna send it with the 545 P max. Why? Because they're inexpensive. They work, right? And at the end of the day, if you do have an issue with this is $11, I think, or $12 retail. You can't even buy PMags, Air 15 PMags for that much in most places. So at the end of the day, you can get magazines for your AKs, and they're going to run reliably.
That is the mags and an AK were something I wasn't expecting. So I have not a parts build, but I have a kit build that doesn't like PMags. It likes metal mags. It likes some of the Circle 10 mags. It does not like PMags. And I understand it now, but like I didn't realize how much you guys have to tune those sometimes to run different mags.
Well, it's funny because like on the Pestilence series, because you got the dong on there, the lower handguard. PMags in general just don't run, because they're too fat. The base plates are too big compared to a standard com block mag. So we tell people right at the get-go, they're not designed to run PMags. Okay? They'll run standard com block steel mags. They'll run Circle 10s. We'll run X-Tex, US Palm mags. There's a whole bunch of different mags out there. Sometimes the PMags in general, it depends on the receiver. Sometimes your magazine well is a little bit too tight for the receiver. We normally do not tune magazines. We actually tune the mag catches.
Yeah. So
we have to find, and so on the bulks and little dirties and stuff like that, we have to find a good balance between what works and what doesn't. So that's just one of those.
Somebody dancing off camera.
Yeah.
Just because you have them behind you, and I think it's one of the coolest things you guys do, and I always love when you guys get it. When you guys get the boxes of the wood furniture, I love the trench art you guys always show. So why don't you talk through some of the process you guys do for all this, all the wood furniture?
Sure. So obviously this is all original Romanian furniture. You get a lot of hardwoods, but this is all laminate. And what we do is we completely strip these things. We're for the Pestilence series, so we strip it to bare wood. And then from there, we have a custom dark mix, like what we call our ebony stain. We stain it, right? Let it dry. And then for these, we're going to do some sort of polyurethane coating over the top. We do multiple layers, and it's good to go. And the great thing is it all has different, all of the dong handguards, all the stocks, they all have their own different little character traits. They're going to have dings, dents, stuff like that. But on this one, if you're lucky, some of them don't have it, plain and simple. But we've mixed the trench arc stuff in with basic, Pestilence rifles just because, But this one, it'll save people's names on there. It'll have shit like that, right? And then the cool thing is, if I can find one, let's see. So some of them will have notches on the front, and then I think what else?
And how did the numbers start?
We wanted to be different than everybody else, because obviously I was into FALs and G3s, and you look at rack numbers, even for M16s and stuff like that. And we're like, well, we should do something along those. Anthony, one of the owners of the company, Anthony, we should do something along those lines, but let's do it all based off of the year of the kit. So on this one, this is a 67, and it's because the year of the kit's 67, which is great. Oh, thank you. Can you come over? Yeah. Sorry. One of the guys. All right. They didn't see your face. Okay. So this is in the raw, right? Completely stripped. It's still, the great part about it is when we strip this, it doesn't strip any of the trench art or any of the notches or anything off of it. And then You come into, I mean, it looks like this. Like I said, some of them will have notches, just their own little character traits. So everything's different. All the dongs, all the buttstocks, they're all going to be different. Nothing's going to be the same. Just like in real life. Shapes of dongs, lengths, all of that stuff, right? And that's what really, for the Pestilence rifles, that's what dictates if a PMAG works or doesn't. Because so on MD63s, which were fixed stock AKMs, if it's too long or if for the dong, and if it comes back a little bit in towards the mag well, then you're not going to be able to get your mag out. You're not going to be able to insert it or actually remove it. Whereas some of these things, you just got lucky. Some customers get lucky at the end of the day. They're like, hey, it works. Romanian underfolders, MD65s, they have a reverse dong that allows the underfolder to actually fold up onto. But it's cool because, like, for the longest time, people shit on these rifles because they're like, this is stupid. Who would want this? And then this, over the last, year and a half, 2 years, this turned into like a $50 to $100 item now. Now everybody they have to have the dong, They have to have it. So it's like we always laugh about that stuff. It's like everybody makes jokes and they always make the dong jokes, but at the end of the day, you want to put your hand on a dong. It might not be yours, but you're going to put your hand on it. So.
Your audio just got really weird for some reason. So you guys also circumcise. I mean, cut the dongs, don't you? You guys also offer that as on some of the guns.
Yeah, we do. So here, I think I know why my audio messed up. I just get my phone to go with it. But I think it's good now.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties. Stand by.
All right, we're good to go. All right. Yeah, so we cut the dogs, we shark fit it, right? Helps out. You can use basically any mag you want then. And those vary in how they're cut. But we usually, I'll take a dog and I trace it out. We're like, okay, we're going to cut 10 of these same size, and then we use those and they're good to go. So.
And then Brian just asked, what happened to all the Arsenal rifles with the AK-100 series polymer folding stocks? Arsenal doesn't seem to import them anymore.
Hold on one second.
Oh, your audio's back.
Okay. You mean this kind of stuff? Those kind of stocks? I don't know. No, to be honest, like there's a lot of those companies,
Mic's clear because it sounds sketchy. It's back.
It's back. We're good to go.
Yeah.
A lot of those companies, like K-Bar USA, right, or Arsenal USA, right? Yeah, they have a deal going on with their sister companies overseas, right? And they'll put in a PO for a certain number of models, and it really comes down to what the parent company or what they're purchasing from, right, where their distributors are, what they want to sell at that time or what they're building. And we saw a lot like Arsenal Bulgaria, just from their military contracts and stuff like that, they dropped a lot of models. So they dropped 7.62, it seemed like, in 5.45, and they went directly to 5.56. And then you were seeing a lot more 5.56 guns that they were manufacturing, which makes sense, right? They're a European country. So they're like, hey, we need to, sorry, at the end of the day, we're moving on. And that's all it was. Some companies, will import stuff and they'll sit on it, and they'll release it and they'll boost up their cost and they'll make a pretty penny on it. Sometimes at the end of the day, you got guys that have Connex boxes full of kits. And for whatever reason, they just decide not to pull them out and sell those kits. I don't think that there's Connex boxes full of complete rifles, plain and simple. It just doesn't happen that way. Not for ATF acquisition purposes and having it on your battle book and all that.
I've seen some trucks full rifles, but they were in countries where I'm pretty sure there's been a change of power recently, and those are now in the hands of other people. Yeah,
it's funny how that works out, huh? I'm sure they'll be up on their version of eBay or Craigslist soon, but that's just how that works. That's how those rifles, come about. And sometimes at the end of the day, they have manufacturing cycles. It's Europe and Eastern Europe is no different than here, Just because you're expecting them to have, 1 million of these things, that doesn't mean they're going to have them. They still have to get all the components made, That means, trunnions, bolts, carriers, all that stuff, all of the polymer, Just because they're building these doesn't mean that they're manufacturing all those parts in-house. And then you take it to where you have a component or you have a model that was manufactured during a time when, their state-run government, controlled everything. So labor was a lot cheaper.
Well, I look at it this way, like just trying to get my MCX recently, like SIG just got a bunch of big government contracts for foreign governments. And so like if people are MCX or AR guys, go try to find MCXs right now. They're everywhere is sold out of all the materials, all the rails, all the barrels, everything. And so I mean, we've been spoiled in that. I think, like you said, I think a lot of companies have moved on, and so those guns aren't being made for military purchase as much. And so when and the U.S. market wasn't sucking up as many of them as we are now. And so as that ammo became the ammo to have, and I mean, shit, if you're not paying attention, in 2020, there was 8 million new gun owners. And in 2021,
the numbers are amazing.
There's something like some insane number more.
Which is fantastic. And that's what people don't realize. Like, we want that stuff to happen because that helps us in the long run.
Oh, 100%.
And so everybody's like, oh, these people are just hoarding ammo. No, that's not what's happening. When you have 10 million new gun owners, I mean, and guess what, guys? They're going on those same websites and buying ammo from those places, right? Where normally
somebody explained this to me, and they said 8 million new gun owners. I mean, people don't realize this. 8 million new gun owners, if they just bought a gun because they were scared, whatever the fuck the reason is. If you take that 8 million people and they buy one box of 50 rounds, one box per gun, the total amount of capacity of the U.S. ammo manufacturers to manufacture ammo is like 220 million rounds a year or something within the U.S. And so if everybody just bought just the new gun owners, not to mention all the guys who shoot, law enforcement, military, whatever, you already, just those new gun owners max out how much ammo manufacturing we have as a country. And so the shelves ran dry and everybody's now been catching up. And now you add another 6 million, plus the fact that all those people now, hopefully, we want them to, are getting training and being responsible gun owners and are continuing to understand and actually, be responsible in possession of a firearm.
And that's the other thing, going back to what you were saying, like you were talking about, not so much price versus performance, but what can you do with a specific amount of money, right? Like, do you need to buy a Knights, right, over a BCM? Because it's going to save you, let's say it saves you $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever it is, right? Well, that not middle of the road, but the middle tier rifle, right? You can get ammo and training, and you can probably you're going to be able to do a lot more with that as far as bang for your buck, because at the end of the day, you're not dropping, let's say, $3,500 or $4,000 just on a specific, like an AR. Not saying an AR-15 is an AR-15, but if you're getting a good quality rifle, right, they're going to do the same things for you in that class. So get the training, buy ammo, get the dry fire work, shit like that.
That's a good thing that, whether, obviously we're talking to you guys, and you guys are I'll say a niche / higher end builder, but even in the AK market, if you go buy a Zastava Crink or whatever for $1,700 now, whatever the price is now, the difference between that and a Meridian's like $1,000. And so, for the average for the 19 or 21-year-old kid, for the college student, for the guy who's barely making ends meet, who's trying to get the most out of being a shooter and training and getting out to classes. Like, would I rather push that guy to go save up for another year to go buy a Volk, or would I go, dude, go buy this gun, throw a Ultimac rail on it, and then go shoot a class and buy 2,000 rounds of ammunition? Like,
and that was kind of the reason why, I mean, prices have gone up on cost of everything. It's like, you look at the best ones, you know? I mean, it comes with a side rail. You can put an RS regulator, you can put whatever side rail. It comes with the Ultimac, right? Modern front end, suppressor tune. If you can't afford that, and you just have a Wasser, or that's a Stava M70, ditch the slant brake, you get a more modern muzzle brake. Or a flashlight, depending on what you're going to do, but the muzzle brake's going to give you more bang for your buck for what you're doing. And so that's why we came out with our BD2s. 2-chamber muzzle brake, you know. We got wide vertical ports on those things, right? These things are inexpensive. They work. Our whole deal was coming out with components that work, that aren't going to cost you a metric shit ton to run, just because it doesn't have someone's name behind it.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it comes down to. And we've made, you know, like I said, we've made our own gas blocks just because we didn't like what was on the market, you know, plain and simple. We're like, not that cast parts are bad, you know, like misconceptions about cast Fords versus fully machined, right? That can be another conversation we can get into. But one of the owners is a master machinist. There's no reason why we wouldn't make a fully machined gas block. Plain and simple. Why would, you know? We have our BTAs, our buffer tube adapters. They're riveted in components. So, you know, that's the thing. We're not having bolt-on parts. You know, if you're going to run it like this, cool. I mean, we're going to make parts for you, you know, that are purpose-driven, that you can beat the shit out of, you know, something with, and it's going to run. And that's what's great. So you don't have, you know, if you don't have the money, you know, you don't have to buy a Meridian Defense AK or another Gucci brand AK. You can get by. It's just at the end of the day, you know, you're going to get to that point, and we see it a lot where people are like, man, I should have bought this first before. You know, at the end of the day, buy once, cry once, you know. But if you cannot afford, do not go into debt, you know, and kill yourself to buy something.
Yes.
Don't do that. So.
And that's the sad thing I see is I want people to shoot, and I want people to train, and I want people to get better and more capable. And there's a return on investment in your money spent versus of capability that is much higher at a certain point spent on training, ammunition. If you already have decent equipment, then just going through the cycle of just trying to upgrade and buy and upgrade and buy gear that the return on investment for another $1,000 or another $1,500 or $10,000 fucking nods that you're going to use once a year, like,
yeah.
That people are going into debt. They're maxing out credit cards for what? Like, and that's what fucking kills me. Because
yeah, and that's the thing for us. Like, we don't have a marketing budget like a lot of people think. You know, the owner of the company, Tony, or one of the owners, you know, Justin, Tony's the one that runs our social media campaign, like Instagram, social media, all that stuff, right? That's him. We always joke around, like, people think that, oh, you're like dropping photos, you know, strategically. He's literally on the shitter, like releasing photos, and he'll tell you that. And we know it's true. It's just what it is, you know. We've figured out how to grow and scale the right way, organically, you know. And I think that's what a lot of companies don't do. They rush into things, you know. And we're in a place to where we can be, I mean, we've always been honest with our customers, you know, and if something doesn't work, we're going to tell you, you know, we're going to give you recommendations. Some people are hard pressed on certain things. Cool. Awesome. Not a problem. As long as we, you know, told you from the get go. Otherwise I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be being honest, you know, if I didn't say something, you know, this doesn't work, but we'll throw it on your rifle anyway. Yeah, that's great. No, screw that. I've had plenty of phone calls with people that says, hey, should I buy your rifle? I was like, well, what are you looking for? You know, wants, needs, all that stuff, budget. If they can't afford it, we're going to tell them no. Don't buy it. Save. If you're looking for something, I literally sent them links to good quality rifles, that they can depend their life on, and everything's good to go. So,
and I think in the end, I don't think people realize how valuable that is. In people coming back to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're willing, I call it the Miracle on 34th Street syndrome. Like, if you're fucking not, if you're young and haven't watched that fucking movie, I'll explain it to you. Santa Claus is sitting in fucking JCPenney's or whatever. He's telling these kids, and the mom's like, the kid's like, oh, I want to get this toy. The mom's like, have you tried to find it? It's over there. It's super expensive. And the Santa Claus is like, if you go over to this other store, it's over there on sale and you can save yourself some money. Like, and she goes and tells the manager, and the manager's like, oh, I'll go fix that right now. And the lady says this, she goes, any store that's willing to put the customer first earns my business. And it's fucking true.
Yeah.
Like, and I think companies lose sight of that you might not make the sale today, but that person's going to come back.
Oh,
or they're going to push 3 or 4 of their buddies your way. And you've got 3 or 4 sales that, again, is immeasurable. You can't like put a dollar amount to it, but
no,
you just have to trust that goodwill is going to come back on you.
I don't know how many times we've told people not to buy our stuff just based off the fact that either that person couldn't afford it or they really didn't have a need for it, and 24, 40 hours, a week later, that person's making a purchase. So it happens all the time. Yeah.
Well, my girlfriend's in there making dinner. I am going to bounce. Now we're at almost 2 hours. Guys, appreciate you guys following along. Paul, as always, my friend, it's great to see you, brother. If you guys aren't already, follow Meridian Defense. If you guys are coming from their page to mine, follow. Would love to see you. Paul, till next time, brother.
Bye, dude. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.